worked with some of India's biggest companies, training their people in the subject of soft skills and behavior. Now, the club proposition is a brand new proposition that Work Better has launched. And for those of y'all who have joined from the corporate side, you should go and check the website and know what this proposition is about. And this is the first session of the club. The club was started with a very, very simple premise. The Work Better Club was started with the premise of your success being our mission, by which I mean for the last 10 years, Work Better Training has had this belief that for people to be successful in their professional life, the only way in which they can succeed is through personal and professional development. That's the only way it can happen in the knowledge economy. And we've always operated on this firm belief that in the knowledge economy, the more developed you are in terms of your skills, your attitudes, and your knowledge, the better chance you have of career success. And the less developed you are as far as your skills, knowledge, and attitudes are concerned, the lesser chance you have of career success in the knowledge economy. So we've always operated with that fundamental belief. Now, when it comes to the subject of self-development, there are two broad areas that everybody talks about, right? The two broad areas are the hard skills or the technical skills. Like, for example, if you go and become an IT engineer, or you become an architect, or a mechanical engineer, or any other technical degree, so to speak. So that's the hard skill, which is very, very important. But anyone in the corporate industry, especially if you speak to the CEOs, all research in this particular space, whether it's the World Economic Forum or any of the major organizations that researches this subject, talks about how hard skills are important, but in today's world, soft skills are equally important, if not more important. And there aren't too many organizations that really lay focus on those particular soft skills, which everybody talks about being more important than the hard skill itself, right? Now, in the domain of soft skills, the domain of soft skills is very, very, very broad. So everything from critical thinking to collaboration to communication, so on and so forth. It's a very, very broad spectrum that is covered in the topic of soft skills. But today we're going to talk about just two things, right? We're going to talk about the subject of body language, and we're going to talk about the subject of how do you speak impactfully, right? These are the two subjects that we're going to talk about in this particular session. And we're going to start, of course, with body language first. Okay, now, before we go any further, let me just check the chat box, because I see that buzzing with a lot of people. Thanks, please approve the joining of people. Okay, Mitali, please, I hope you're keeping track of the chat box. If people are having any problem joining in, this is our first session, so we could have a few problems in terms of operational issues, but we have Mitali, who's my co-host, that is going to take care of that. We are also going to use this particular chat box for our interaction post this. I see a few people raising their hand as well. I just hope it's to say hi, right? Most of them, yeah, I think it's to say hi. Happy about that. Hi, guys. Okay, so just a few ground rules. All of y'all can read this particular thing. So your cameras and microphones have been disabled. Y'all have already done this because you can see the presentation which is there. This session is going to be for 60 to 90 minutes. I'm used to doing sessions which are 1 day, 2 day sessions. So I'm going to try really hard to keep this down to 90 minutes. I will take questions at the end of every section, which means I will take questions at the end of the section of body language. I will take questions at the end of the section of speaking impactfully. I will unmute audio participants if I find the need. I'm unlikely given the tight space that we have, and let's use the chat, raise hand and Q&A function very generously, right? So let's do that. So with that, we come to the first topic of the day, which is body language, right? That's what we're going to talk about. And we are going to we're going to first give you a quick exercise. So I want all of y'all to pay attention, okay? So the first thing that I want you all to do, and all of the answers need to come in this particular chat box, which is there. I want you all to quickly answer this question, right? Why is body language important? What is the consequence of bad body language, right? So I want each one of y'all to kind of think about these two answers and put 3 points each in the chat box for question number 1 and question number 2. Okay, you have 3 minutes to do that. Your time starts now. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I think a lot of people have put in their answers. That's very, very exciting to see that I know that you guys are around and participating for this session and the rest of the sessions through the month. Let's do the same thing. Let's participate wholeheartedly through these particular answers. Okay, so sure, on one side this seems like a topic which is very, very obvious, but for some reason, after having trained people over 10 years, I can tell you that this is one of the big mistakes that people end up doing when they're communicating at the workplace. So why is it important? Number one, I think it's important because it gives out an impression, and it's not just the first impression that we're talking about, right? Of course, it gives out the first impression in the first 7 seconds, but even beyond that, your body language kind of has a big impression on how people perceive you. And if all of you all must have come across that stat where it says that almost 50% of weight in communication is given to your body language, close to 30% of it is the way you speak, and close to 7 to 10% are the actual words, right? So people make huge impressions of you because of your body language. The second thing is the way you feel yourself because of your body language, right? Now, there has been a lot of research that has been done in this particular area where of the importance of how good body language makes you feel better. And there's especially research from a lady called Amy Cuddy. She's a Harvard professor. We'll share the link with you at the end on her TED Talk. She's one of the world's experts on the subject of body language. Mitali, just share that link at the end of the session, her TED Talk. And she talks about how having good body language kind of has an impact on the way you feel and can actually make you feel more confident, right? So it becomes like in a way a cycle. So your emotions impact your body language, and in turn having the right body language starts impacting the way you actually feel, right? So body language is important for yourself, the way it makes you feel, and it is important for the other people that you're communicating with at all points of time, right? Now, in India, we've heard most of our parents' generation really talk about this issue. My mom would say this a lot when I was younger. She'd say this in Marathi, but I'll say this to you in Hindi. So she'd say, इस आदमी की personality बहुत अच्छी है, right? So that's something that you talk about, and all Indian parents have said that at some point of time कि इसकी personality बहुत अच्छी है. And if you actually go down and kind of decode what they meant by somebody has a good personality, it boiled down to three things that they were referring to. I think the first thing that they were talking about when they spoke about a good personality is this was body language, right? So that's the first thing that they thought about. The second thing that they kept in mind when it came to a good personality was the way the person dressed. Was he a sharp dresser or not? And the third kind of factor that they always kept in mind was, I guess, overall fitness levels, right? You didn't have to be a Hrithik Roshan or a Ranveer Kapoor in terms of your fitness levels, but just somebody who's fairly fit. And if before the person opened his mouth, of course, so these were the three factors that they looked at for a good personality: good body language, the way a person is groomed or the way he dresses, and the third thing was his overall fitness levels. And of course, after he spoke to you, his tamiz or his manners or how he basically conducted himself. So if you had these four components in place, they would typically say that this person has a good personality. In most of my classrooms, when I ask people, um, uh, who comes to mind when you think of having a good personality, the answer that people often kind of go to is people from the armed forces, right? That's the answer that comes to their head immediately, whether it's the Navy, whether it's the Air Force, or whether it's the ground troops, right? The armed forces. That's the answer that comes to you immediately. And if you try to kind of tick the three boxes off, you will know that anybody from the armed forces kind of ticks those three boxes off. They have great body language, right? Number two, they're always sharply dressed. If they're wearing their uniforms, it's looking good on them. And most of them, if not all of them, is fairly fit. So because they tick these three boxes, more often than not, people from the armed forces are somebody that are supposed to have good personalities, right? And the truth of the matter is, you have thousands of people that go through army school every year, and they come out with good personalities, right? They don't necessarily go in with those good personalities, but they come out definitely with good personalities. A good reference to this actually is the movie Laksh, right? So if you watch the movie Laksh with Hrithik Roshan in it, before he goes to the armed school, he's kind of loose, dhila, not good body language, very casual body language. He goes into armed school, he literally comes out a man, right? He comes out with a good personality. And I believe with a few kind of tweaks, each and every one of us can do a similar kind of change, as you see in people from the armed forces, if you actually practice a few things well, right? So that's how important this particular subject is. And you have, of course, tons of research from all over the world to back this particular thing up, right? Now, okay, so what are the core kind of elements of body language, right? What are things which constitute good body language? And a lot of, so these are the four things that I would say are the core kind of elements of it. I think the most important, if you ask me, is posture. The second most important, in my opinion, is facial expression. The third is eye contact, and the fourth is your hand gestures, right? So in that order, there's no big debate over whether this one is more important than that one. I think all four of them are important. And through this particular class, we're going to get practical tips and understanding of what you're supposed to do in each one of these things, right? So let's head to posture first and try to understand what good posture is about. So if we kind of keep people that we think who have good personalities in mind, so let's take people in the armed forces. Again, I'm going to give a few political examples because these are kind of figures that you see all the time on TV, but please don't go into the politics of the issue. Just concentrate on the message around the body language, right? So people from the armed forces, typically see them straight. Other kind of public figures that have a good personality because of a good body language is somebody like Obama, right? Who was the US president, even Prime Minister Modi for that matter, right? He's really known for having a good personality. Again, ticks off the three boxes that we spoke about. Has good body language, is well dressed, and has decent fitness levels, right? So now, what should your posture be? Okay, the answer to that, I think, is, and this is Amy Cuddy, by the way, right? So this is the TED talk that we're going to send you at the end of the session, so you can watch that for further details on it. But she talks about research across the world saying that body language makes you feel more confident. If you have a powerful stance, it can increase your power hormones, which means it increases your testosterone, decreases your stress hormones, leads to more confidence, and you feel more assertive and confident as a result of it, right? So this is all the research around this particular subject. And of course, we'll send you the TED Talk, which is there, right? Now, let's look at good versus bad posture in the two kind of situations that you're going to find yourself in when you stand and when you sit, right? These are the two situations that you're going to, and it's obvious what is good and what is bad here, right? In this particular frame. So let's look at what is good posture when you're standing. Okay, so three kind of elements. The first element that we're talking about is straight back and no slouching, right? The second thing is expansive shoulders, and the third thing is the way you look. Okay, now what does straight back mean versus having sloppy body language? Do you remember that at one point of time, this was like close to 15 years back, we used to have a prime minister, and again, please don't go into the politics of the issue. I'm just talking about the body language element. We used to have a prime minister called Deve Gowda, right? And that particular prime minister, whether you were standing or sitting, was always slouching, okay, versus somebody like an Obama and Modi that are always straight and firm, right? So what are you supposed to do when you stand? Stand straight, okay? Do not droop in any way with your shoulders. That's what you're supposed to do. And concentrate on your shoulders, right? So one of the biggest mistakes people make, whether they're sitting or standing, is they droop their shoulders like this, and that doesn't make their body language look good. Again, think of people from the armed forces. When they're sitting, they often sit or stand extremely straight and their shoulders are expansive. So when we talk about expansive shoulders, we're not talking about you walking around like Sunny Deol all over the place, right? That's not what we're talking about. But ensuring that you're not drooping. If you do that, that's more than enough for you to have a good body language, right? So if you're standing, stand straight. If you're walking, walk straight, right? Focus on that particular posture, which is there. Now, when it comes to sitting, again, kind of 3 or 4 things that you need to keep in mind. Sit straight, exactly like you see these particular pictures. Don't fall on either side of the chair. So more often than not, when you go to office or you're sitting, you have arm rests there to the side. And one of the big habits that we have is we fall on this side or we fall on that side of that particular, of the armrest. So that's the thing that we do that you're not supposed to do. So sit straight, don't fall on either side. And ensure that when you're sitting, there is no difference. So if you see this particular woman, there is no kind of gap between her back and the backside of her chair, right? So your body needs to take the shape of the chair when you're sitting straight. There shouldn't be any gap between your backside and the chair, right? That's what you need to do. Yeah, now again, you don't need to kind of sit straight all the time. You can, when you're sitting straight, you can take the backrest, you can rest against it, but even when you're doing that, ensure that you're sitting straight even when you're resting on the backrest of the chair, right? So yeah, so before we go further to the next thing, I want, if all of y'all are clear on what I'm trying to say yes in the chat box so that I'm clear that y'all hear me. At this stage, if you have any questions connected to posture, because in the subject of body language, I think posture is something which is very, very important. So if you have any questions connected to posture, this would be a good time to ask them. Listen, guys, I was very excited about wearing this suit today because I hadn't worn it for a long, long time, but I'm feeling very hot. So I'm going to get this suit off. Yes, we're going to get to eye contact and we're going to get to those parts as we go along, right? So don't worry about that. I can see a few questions coming up. Let me have a look at them. Yeah, you know, one of an interesting question that has come up, right? Good, Rohit, a good job. I hope this is not my friend Rohit and some other Rohit, right? So the question that's come from Rohit in the question and answer box is around what if your body is not in shape, right? That's the question that has come up, right? I don't think that having a good posture has got anything to do with whether your body is in shape or not. Irrespective of what your shape is, you can always maintain good posture. Now, from the overall personality point of view that we were discussing, like we said, there are three elements to it: body language, the way you dress, and your fitness level. So your fitness levels are important. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But when it comes to posture and body language, you can definitely fix that even if your fitness levels currently are not great, right? So that's the answer to that, Rohit. Thank you very much for the question that you asked. I have a question from Akib Mohammed. Thank you, Akib, for the question. Um, you know, that's a good question again. So thank you very much. For meetings held for long hours, we can't be straight for the whole time. So how do we manage that without notice? I think that's a fantastic question, Akib. So first of all, a lot of people, when we talk about your posture being straight, they often think that they're not supposed to take backrest, right? They're not supposed to lean against their chair. And no, that's not what you're supposed to do. Even if you're sitting straight, exactly like I'm doing right now, you can kind of rest against your chair and sit straight. So that takes care of that. Most of the advice that we're giving here is when, of course, second point to this is most of the advice that we're giving here is when you all are in formal settings. And what I mean by formal settings is if you work in a large organization where you have a lot of people around you in that particular setting, or if you're at a client office or interacting with clients in highly kind of formal settings, that is when it's very, very important to be straight. Now, in settings when, say, you're working all alone, right, or if you're with colleagues that you work in day in and day out, it's okay if you relax your body a little. It's okay if you're not straight all the time, right? Of course, you need to keep in mind the situation that is there. If you're in front of customers, if you work in a large organization where you have a lot of people sitting around you, it's extremely important because you're giving out a certain kind of impression while doing that. If you're sitting all alone, if you're just working with colleagues who are more like friends and you have body language which is a lot more relaxed, that is okay as well. Okay. Now, the third point, Akib, to this particular thing as part of the answer that you gave me is, we started this particular session by saying body language is not just something that you do for others, but body language is something that you do for yourself as well. So even when you're not in high stakes situation, having the right posture is going to help your body, right? Because if you think of anybody will tell you, right, when the minute that you're straight, that's much better body posture than otherwise. So even if you're not in those high stakes situation, I would recommend that you have good body language and a straight posture, because it will make you feel better. It will avoid stuff like backaches and stuff like that. If you're anybody that's 6 foot or taller, those are things that you always suffer with. I did that myself because at some point of time I didn't have good body language until I learned all these things. Now my back doesn't hurt as much as it used to earlier, right? So that's kind of my answer to that. So thank you very much, Akib. I hope you have some clarity on what I'm trying to say, right? If you don't, you can ask more kind of questions later on and I will take that up. Okay. Yeah, so I think Komal has asked a question. I think that question, sitting straight for a wrong, does it not impact our ergonomics? I think I've answered that question somewhere. Of course, when just another thing, if you have the option, not all people have the option in your own office of getting a chair that's really comfortable. But of course, having done a lot of trainings and been in a lot of situations, you can always find a chair that more or less you can sit straight on, right? So let's not blame the chair for it. We can find a chair where we can really sit straight. Okay. Can we close our arms while sitting during long meetings, right? Very good. Muskan, I'm going to come to that particular question when we deal with the whole issues of hands. Can't sing longer even during, okay, what should my body language be when I'm talking to my boss and my boss asking me or instruct me something? What should be my hand? Okay, a lot of boss questions. Amit, we're going to have a specific session tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. The first 2 sessions are going to be conducted by me, which is specifically on managing your boss. So we'll get to a lot of boss related stuff there. There is nothing differently that you need to do as far as your posture is concerned when you're interacting with your boss, important client, or any other stakeholder, right? So there's nothing different that you need to do around that. The basics remain the same. If you're sitting or standing, straight back, expansive shoulders. If you're sitting, don't fall on either side, no gap between the chair and your back, right? So these are the basics that can be followed across the board. A lot of people ask me another question, right? How do I actually put this into action? Okay. And it is shocking that you can get used to good body language, even if you had bad body language for 30 or 35 years of your life. You can translate into having good body language literally within a week's time if you just focus on your body language, right? So today is a Saturday. By next Saturday, if you don't focus on any other element of self-development and just focus on your body language and posture, when you're sitting, walking, or standing, if you just focus on that one thing, you will realize that you typically have bad body posture, and this is what you need to do. You'll understand the difference between the two. If you concentrate on it for a week, you will see a difference as to how your body language actually starts changing. But you need to keep it top of your mind, right? One of the other things that I recommend to people during that particular week, since we tend to look at our phones so much, right? So have a wallpaper on your phone that just says body language. That's it. It says nothing else. Just says body language. So every time you look at the phone, you're trying to check it for a message, you're going to get like a reminder that, listen, I need to improve my body language. And that small little tip, so many people that we've trained on this subject over the last tips have found that so useful because we access our phone so often, right? So for those of y'all who want to understand the subject and implement it, this is a great tip towards it, right? So thank you very much for the questions. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back and answer more questions as we go along. Okay. Okay, so now, on the subject of eye contact, one of the things that we want to do here is we want to keep our advice that we give really practical, implementable, and real, right? So that is something that we're going to really focus on at the Work Better Club. So there's actually not much to tell you around eye contact, right? The only thing I can tell you about eye contact is if you don't make eye contact with people, people don't tend to trust you, right? So, and why is that? Because if you think of it, ever since we were kids, our parents would say this to us, right? They would say, especially if they thought we were lying, they would say, "Aankhon mein dekh ke batao," right? So that's the line. Look into my eyes and tell me this thing, right? Because they would kind of read into our eyes and be able to tell whether we're lying or not. So the minute you're interacting with anybody, especially at the place of business, and they are not making eye contact to you, the person on the other side doesn't find you trustworthy enough, right? So there is this good research point that says, recruiting professionals say that people that don't make eye contact is one of the biggest interviews that they make, the biggest mistakes that they make, right? And that makes the kind of recruiter wary of hiring that particular person. So therefore, because eye contact has so much of a connection with trust and so much of a connection with people kind of lying, if you don't make eye contact, it's going to impact trustworthiness in a big way. Right? Does that make sense to you? If it makes sense to you, say yes in the chat box, so I'm clear that we're on the same page on this particular thing. Okay, and I'll take more questions on eye contact as we go along. Awesome, guys! It's great to see everybody participating. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, now what are some of the things that we can keep in mind as far as eye contact is concerned, right? Okay, so make eye contact with people. Number two, make eye contact people as other people are reading you. You are also reading other people when you're making eye contact, right? So when it comes to the topic of listening, which is one of the topics that we have at the Work Better Club, how to listen better to people. One of the things that we tell people is you don't just listen with your ears, you also listen with your eyes, right? So when you're interacting with somebody, if you like make eye contact with them, you can read their body language, you can read what they're feeling about that particular issue. Again, if you don't make eye contact with them, you can't kind of read all these things that you get through a Zoom call or through a face-to-face meeting that you'll do. So it's Number one, it's for them to trust you in a way, but number two, it's for you to kind of read what's happening in that person's mind. And that's why like Zoom calls, face-to-face interactions, meetings still are so important, right? Because when it comes to critical things, you still want to see the person and pick up all those cues. If you're not making eye contact, you can't really pick up all those cues that you will get from the other person, right? So that's the reason why you want to make it. Now, of course, if you make eye contact in a weird way, and it's so difficult, guys, to define what weird means, right? That if you constantly stare at a person in a weird way, that doesn't work. And it's so typically all the research says maintain the eye contact for 4 to 5 seconds at a time. When you look away, do it slowly and then start making eye contact again, right? It's very difficult to kind of explain this topic in any other practical way but this, right? So make eye contact with people. Don't do it in an uncomfortable way where you're staring at them. Women especially find that very uncomforting when people kind of just keep staring at them. So don't do that. Make eye contact for 4 or 5 minutes. When you look away, do it slowly, then make eye contact again, right? So that's all that you can do on this particular subject. When it comes to if you're in a meeting where you're addressing a meeting one to many, right, where you're speaking to different people, speaking to many people in a room, if you're making a presentation to them, the thing that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to make eye contact with people in a zigzag manner or a semicircle manner, right? This is in a presentation scenario or a one-to-many scenario, which means typically if you have a boardroom which is like this, okay, you look at one person here, then look at the next person here, then look at a person here. It's called zigzag, right? Look at a person here, 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 and then keep repeating the cycle again, right? Where you look at one person here. So that's the way you look at people. Typically, when you're making a presentation, the way you make eye contact is you make eye contact for 1 to 2 seconds each per person before you move on to the next person. So that's one logic to keep in mind. The other logic to keep in mind is possibly one sentence per person, and then you move on to the next person when you're making a presentation, right? That's the zigzag way of doing it. Zigzag can be used in a setting which is a conference room setting or in a cluster style setting, right? When people are sitting in clusters. When it comes to eye contact, the semicircle means a lot of people don't like moving their head from here to here. So the other way in which you can do it is start from here in a semicircle and kind of cover each and every person on that table with your eye contact. Again, 1 to 2 seconds or one line per person, and you keep repeating that particular cycle of doing it in a semicircle fashion. That's the way you make eye contact when you're in a situation where you're dealing with one to many, right? Situation. The third actually very interesting thing is what do you do with your eyes when you're on a telephone call, right? Because a lot of work is going to happen virtually now. And so what do you do there with your eyes? And again, tons of research, which we can't get into right now. People that are often effective in, say, virtual sales and stuff like that are very careful of what they do with their eyes, even when they're on a telephone call when the person can't see them, right? They're very careful of doing it because our eyes often tend to be the biggest distractors that we have, right? So if you're on a telephone call and if you're also checking an email, that will distract you, and then you won't be fully focused on the telephone call that you're doing, right? Or if you're on a telephone call and if your colleagues are around you, hopefully in a month or two our colleagues should be around us, but if your colleagues are around you and you're busy kind of looking at your colleagues, you're going to get distracted from the call that you're on, and you're going to focus on them and not on this, right? So what is often recommended if you're on telephone calls, what do you do with your eyes? Number one, shut your screen unless you're looking at something in the screen that you need for that particular call. Do not look at your screen because often we have emails popping up, we have tons of stuff popping up on it, right? If you're going to use your hands free and you're going to do a call, please don't look at your telephone, right? Because again, you have notifications that will keep coming and they'll distract you from the call. And very often if you're distracted, the person on the other end is going to know that you're distracted, right? And then he'll say something like, "To sun raha hai na meri baat," right? That keeps happening on these Zoom calls or other calls, right? Where he says, "Are you listening to me? Can you hear me?" And it'll come across like you're not listening to him, which is setting a very bad impression. So what you want to do, and what we typically do, say when we're on an important call, is we look at if you're standing and doing the call, you typically look at the floor, right? You look at the floor so that you don't want somebody to distract you. Or if you look down at that point of time if you're on a call, because you don't want the distraction there. You don't want to look at a screen. You don't want to look at a phone. You look down, concentrate on the call, and that is going to help the other person get the right impression, even if you're not in front of him, right? So when it comes to eye contact, we've discussed the situation where in your daily interactions, we've discussed the situation if you're making a presentation, and we've discussed a situation where you're on a call and the person can't even see you. What do you do with your eyes, right? So that's what we've discussed here. Okay, so all those who are clear, say a big yes in all caps, all caps. So I know it's like a loud yes. Ah, good. Shubham, thank you for a big yes. Guys, there is a space for questions. Don't ask questions in the chat box. If possible, ask questions as far as possible in the Q&A section. Okay. Yeah, Amit, I'm going to come to your question possibly at the end because it's quite a long question, right? Of saying how to balance all types of body posture, eye contact, hand position when I'm facing an audience, right? The better place where this question will be answered, because it's more a public speaking question, it's more a presentation question, and we're not going into deep detail as far as presentation skills and body language in this section. But I think in this month or the next month, we have a specific presentation skills class where you're going to get great tips on this particular subject, right? So that's the time to come for that. But at the end, if we have some time, Amit, I will share something on it, right? Yeah, I'm looking for a question. I think an interesting question had come up from... Yeah, so again, in online meetings, that's, I think rightly so, a question has come up in online meetings, right? Of what do you do during online meetings? Listen, if there is something that you have on the screen, just look at the screen, right? Currently, there's a camera right on top of the screen. I'm not looking at the camera. I'm just looking at the screen, and I think that is more or less enough if you're on a Zoom call or anything where a person can see you during that particular meeting. You don't try to do something which is different, because if you start staring into the camera when you're on a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call, you are going to get distracted looking into that particular camera. So don't worry about the camera. Just look at the screen in front of you. That's more than enough when it comes to Zoom calls, right? Pinky, we're going to get to voice modulation in a bit. Can you please explore more on listening with your eyes, right? Rajesh, it's a very, very good question. Again, like I said, we can't get into great detail as far as this is concerned. All that I can tell you is whether you're interacting with your child, whether you're interacting with your friend, whether you're interacting with a colleague, whether you're interacting with a customer, all of us pick up stuff when we actually look at the person on the other side, right? When we're actually making eye contact with him, we tend to pick up a lot of non-verbal cues that are there. And since we've been doing this ever since we were kids, more often than not, we can decipher what those non-verbal cues are, right? So for example, if you're looking into the person and he's bluffing you, most of us are relatively well equipped to pick that up because we've seen that happen more often than not, right? And Rajesh, what would a person do typically when you're making eye contact with him and he's bluffing, or if he's exaggerating from exaggerating the topic, he will tend to look on top or look at the bottom, which is typically stop making eye contact with you during that time, right? So that's a pretty good indication that number one, he could be bluffing on that topic. Number two, he could be exaggerating on that topic. And number three, if a person on the other side doesn't make eye contact with you at all, it's often a sign of being totally low on self-confidence, right? That could be another sign as well. But we tend to pick these things up quite naturally as human beings, right? So what we need to do is focus on the act of actually making eye contact with people and not worry that much about if you go on YouTube and if you type eye contact, you'll have some, FBI agents say these are the 5 things that you should do. And they're often so complex that we can't follow any of them, right? So simple thing, make eye contact, the things you'll pick up naturally, that's more than enough, right? In this particular. So Rajesh, thank you very much for that question. Yeah, so Shubham, very good question again. Let me read out the question just in case you can't see it. Is it okay to have a longer eye contact if we have to grab somebody's attention during a presentation? It's an excellent question, Shubham, right? Now, when you're making a presentation, say if there are 10 people in the room, when you have 10 people in the room, in today's world, most audiences, and especially if they're people at the senior level, they're always busy on their laptops or their phones, right? So they're always checking some messages or doing something. It's not a very good thing to do. It's an absolutely disrespectful thing to do to the audience when you're doing it. So when you're a participant or when you're an audience in a meeting, please don't do that, right? We keep speaking about etiquette and manners in today's world. When somebody's talking to you, not looking into your laptop, not looking into your phone is a sign of good manners. So do that when you are part of the audience. However, if you are making a presentation and out of the 10 people in the room, you have 5 people that are not looking at you. And if you have 5 people that are looking at you, it's very natural for you to look at them a little more because they're the only 5 people that are making eye contact with you. And that will grow your confidence, right? Making eye contact with those 5 people versus the 5 people that are not looking at you at all. The thing to do when you're presenting is just be a little more mindful of it, that as soon as those people start looking in your direction, start making eye contact with them again, right? So start doing that in a meeting so they don't feel offended that you're not looking at them at all, right? That's what you need to do, Shubham. So it's an excellent question. Just to summarize the answer, 5 people not looking at you, 5 people looking at you, look at those 5 people more to start with. When the other 5 start making eye contact, don't leave them out, then start making eye contact with them. Right? Wow, so many questions. Very, very nice. Naresh, a good question. Yeah. This is the last question I want to answer because we're running out of time, but I'm so happy to see so many questions, right? If I am feeling nervous, how can I make eye contact with someone? It's an excellent question, right? There's no quick kind of fixed solution to this thing of what do you need to do if you're feeling nervous, how do you look at people. Naresh, I think a question that you need to ask yourself, and also join us for our class on self-confidence, right, which is going to come up in a few days, of how you go about building that, is to really ask yourself, why are you feeling nervous, right? What is the reason why I'm feeling nervous in possibly every situation that I go in, right? You need to really explore that particular question and get to the depths of that. However, Naresh, let me tell you the consequence of not making eye contact. Again, the consequence of you not making eye contact is going to be the person on the other side that's talking to you is going to feel that you're either lying to him, you're either exaggerating something, or third, he'll know that you're low on confidence, and in turn that other person is not going to be able to have confidence in you, because the simple logic that he's going to have, this person is not making eye contact, this person is not confident in himself, so why should I show confidence in him, right? And if you want to get to the upper levels of management, if you want to be in any leadership roles, I think it's clear that if you lack confidence, if you feel nervous about every situation, your ability to lead a team, to lead a vertical is going to suffer. So Naresh, my recommendation to you would be, do a deep dive into the subject of why you're feeling nervous, right? Now, again, feeling nervous during a presentation or in public speaking situations is very natural, right? 95% of people feel nervous during public speaking situations. So if you're one of them, you don't need to worry about that, right? We'll give you some amazing tips when you come for we have multiple presentation skills kind of sessions that we're going to have in the club. So when you come for that, you're going to get amazing tips that is going to help you stop becoming nervous in a presentation scenario. But if you get like nervous during every meeting, that's something that you need to kind of question, right? Yeah, Rahul has a question. Last question I'm going to answer here. Thank you very much, guys, for your amazing questions, right? I'm so happy. We didn't expect so much of interaction in our first club class. I expected nobody to come, right? Amazing. Good. Okay, last question, Rahul, here. And then I'm going to move on to the next topic because we're running out of time. I have I have my team kind of prodding me that I need to go on with the topic. But Rahul, okay, whenever I interact with my manager or other person with eye contact, I face an issue. I have a smile on my face during the discussion, right? And sometimes it happens when I'm doing something serious. Rahul, I have no solution for you. Okay, that's the only thing I can tell you. I have no solution for you because I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why you're smiling. I find something funny. I know what's happening, right? So I have no solution for you. However, Rahul, we have group coaching that's going to happen, so we can try to explore that further during that time. But I have no answers for you now. This is the first time somebody's asked me that question. But thank you very much for being honest and putting your question down. Right? That's amazing. Okay, now, okay, lots of yeses, lots of yeses. We have a lot of people that have joined in. Mitali, how many people have joined in? Can you put? If you please have some videos, please share them. Praveen, we are going to have, just for people that want some videos, some reading material on it, everybody tomorrow is going to get something which is called a cheat sheet. Okay, that's what you're going to get, which is this entire subject encompassed on one page that you can take. It's a beautiful looking page where this entire subject is going to be summarized. If you think that this subject is important, take a printout of the page and please put it up in a spot where you can kind of remind yourself of it, right? So we're going to give you something. Number two, this particular club has, we've not launched it yet because we're in the trial period, but this club has something which has the Work Better content library. So on this particular subject, you're going to have a lot of written material in terms of FAQs, frequently asked questions of these subjects and answers given by experts. You're going to have videos there. You're going to have the world's best articles on the subject of body language, right? It's all there on that content library because there's only that much that you can cover and we can cover during this 1.5 hours, right? So Praveen, thank you very much. We're not going to share any videos here. However, at the end, we're going to share the Amy Cuddy video with you on body language, right? So we're going to share a link of that. Yeah. How should we get the slides after this training? Amuya, yes, we can't share any of the slides with you after this training, unfortunately. But you'll get a recording of this whole thing, right? So if you forget anything, you want to revisit certain parts of it, we're going to be sending that to you. Okay, Praveen, thank you. Okay, now let's move on to, oh, I'm having such a good time during this session. Okay, let's move on to hand gestures. Okay. Okay, so all of y'all must have seen TED Talks, heard of TED Talks. So there's some research on this, right? A study analyzing TED Talks found that the most popular viral speakers use an average of about 465 hand gestures, which is nearly twice as many as the least popular figures, right? So yeah, using your hands are important when it comes to body language. So what are some of the do's and don'ts? And again, guys, we're going to stick to something which is practical. We're going to stick to something which is real for you, right? Not just give you some things which you can't really implement. Okay. Very important topic. So if you want to get good at understanding the subject of gestures and hands, number one thing to do is don't force gestures. Let them occur naturally, right? So if you're in a meeting and if you try forcing gestures out, that's a stupid thing to do because you don't want to be, you want to be concentrating on the message you're giving. You want to be concentrating on your posture. You want to be concentrating on speaking in an impactful way. You want to do all of those things, but you don't want to be focusing on your hands that you have to move them. Please don't do that. If your hands move, if you gesture, great. If it doesn't happen, no problem, right? Okay, now, if you're sitting in a meeting, right? If you're sitting in a meeting, what do you do with your hands, right? Now, the best thing to do with your hands if you're sitting on a meeting is keep your hands on the table, right? Because the minute your hands are below the table, it's not that it's going to make a big difference, but when you're looking at the overall subject of posture, body language, just keeping your hands on the table is a better thing to do than to keep them under the table, right? Now, if you are doing any kind of standing and talking, right, which is a presentation scenario. Okay, so I'm just pushing my laptop back. I'm going to stand up and try to show you this thing, right? So if you're talking about any situation where you're standing and talking, the thing that you need to do is you need to keep your hands in front of your stomach or chest. That's what you need to do if you're going to stand and talk at any point of time. Please do not keep your hands to the side, okay, because that makes your body language look weird. Okay, it's not the right thing to do. Please don't keep your hands in front like this because it makes your body droop the minute that you do that. Please don't keep your hands behind if you're going to be standing and talking in any situation, right? That again makes your overall posture look weird. What you're supposed to do is keep your hands in front of your stomach or chest, right? The minute you keep your hands in front of your stomach or chest, that has a positive impact on your posture. Okay, the minute that you do that, that has a positive impact on your posture. Your body kind of leans forward a little, which is a good thing, right? Now, after that, what are you supposed to do? Again, let me bring your notice to the fact that you are not supposed to force gestures, right? Do not try to do that. Just keep your hands here. Now, the more you get comfortable on stage or the more you get comfortable standing and talking, automatically your hands will start moving, right? It's something that will just happen automatically the more comfortable you feel, right? So keep your hands here. The minute you're comfortable, they'll start moving, right? Now, when you get extremely comfortable communicating, standing up or communicating in front of an audience, you are supposed to actually gesture according to what you're saying, right? So that's the simple rule. Now, what does that mean, gesture according to what you're saying? If you're going to talk about growth, right, you can say this quarter we've seen huge growth, right? So you can move your hand in that particular direction. You can, if you're talking about market, you can say we've expanded our market into so many areas. Or you can say we have lowered the cost of this particular thing. Or you can use your hands and you say we're moving very, very quickly in this particular area, right? So you can kind of gesture according to what you say, and that you do only when you start getting comfortable up here. Please don't try to force it. What you need to try to practice is keeping your hands in front of your stomach or chest. That's what you need to try to practice when it comes to the subject of hand gestures, right? Now, in this particular topic, we have not covered the topic of handshakes. We have that in another subject that we're going to do. It doesn't come here, but that's what you're supposed to largely do with your hands when you're speaking. Now, I'm going to open this topic up for questions because I typically get a lot of questions on the subject of what to do with my hands. But the one question that I get very often, and I don't know where you guys are getting this feedback from, and the question is there any such thing as moving my hands too much when I am, say, public speaking or speaking in front of a lot of people? Is there any such things? Okay. Now, given that we've been in the soft skills business, training people on this subject over 10 years, I have personally trained probably thousands, if not lakhs of people myself on the subject of presentation and communication skills. And I can assure you of one thing, having trained thousands of people on the subject of presentations, I have seen just one person out of thousands that moved his hands too much, right? That moved his hands a lot. So most people kind of think that they're moving their hands too much, but just trust me, the audience doesn't care about it, right? There's no such thing as moving your hands too much unless you're doing something absolutely obnoxious that doesn't make sense, right? Otherwise, the thing to do, keep them natural. Don't worry about your hands. If you're sitting, keep them on the table. If you're standing, keep them in front of your stomach or chest. Move them naturally. When you're comfortable, gesture according to what you're saying, right? This is the kind of summary of what you're supposed to do with your hands. Okay, now, if you're clear on what I'm saying, give me a big yes in the chat box. If you're not clear and if you have any questions, go to Q&A and ask me some questions. Yep, some very, very big yeses. Thank you, guys. Thank you for making this interactive. It's no fun for me if you don't make it interactive. There's no point attending this class if it's not interactive. You may as well go to YouTube and watch some video if you don't want to interact. Very good. I'm happy that so many people are here. Saturday evening. I hope all of you are coming tomorrow. 10 o'clock in the morning. Eat a good breakfast. Come. The most important topic, how to handle your boss. My God. The amount of questions that I get on this topic every time I do a talk or a session, it's incredible. We thought, come on, let's put a module first up. How do you deal with your boss well? So come for it tomorrow, guys. Come for it tomorrow. Okay, let's look at some of the questions that have come up. Vaibhav, I have one question. I am very short-tempered. Sometimes it happens when I'm discussing something, and Weber, it's a good question, but unfortunately, this is not the right class for it. We're going to focus our energies on body language and speaking impactfully. So, although it's a good question, come for our coaching class, come for the group coaching session. We're going to answer this question for you there. Okay. While talking, if I put my hands in my pocket, Jalaj Gupta, good question, right? Very, very good question. Something I should have covered proactively myself. So you didn't need to ask the question. Good question. I missed out on that. Now, if you're in an environment, Mr. Gupta, where you're in office, hopefully we should be in office soon. And if you are amongst colleagues that you are working with all the time, that sit next to you, you know, who are again more like friends than actually colleagues, if that is the situation, and if you have your hands in your pocket when you're interacting with them, it's no problem, right? However, if you're making a very important kind of presentation, right, where you're in a meeting, important stakeholders within or outside your office, and if you have your hands in your pocket when you're making that particular presentation, that's not a very good sign, right? Because the minute you put your hands in your pocket, that kind of starts impacting your posture. So you don't want to be doing that. You want to keep your hands in front of your stomach or chest, okay? But Mr. Jalaj, I hope that's Mr. Gupta. However, if you're making a very long presentation, right? You're presenting, if it's a short presentation, important stakeholders, avoid keeping your hands in your pocket. However, let's assume that you're making a presentation for a whole day. If you're in a meeting room, right, presenting, naturally your hands will go to your pockets at some point of time. You will end up doing it, which is okay, right? So just to summarize my answer, if you do it with colleagues that you're more or less friends with and having discussion where you have your hands in your pocket, no problem. When you're with important stakeholders, external or internal stakeholders, please don't put your hands in your pocket, right, as far as possible. Number three, if you're making a presentation, one-to-many communication, as far as possible, don't put your hands in your pocket. Number four, if you're making a presentation, but it's a whole day presentation, a 2-day presentation that you're in charge of, it's like more a training session. At that point of time, it's natural that your hands are going to go in your pocket once in a while. Don't worry about it, right? Okay, don't worry about it at all. Okay, okay, I have. Okay, so I think Arlene quote, what is appropriate open hand gesture? Okay, so again, I hope I'm answering your question right, but typically what is said about hands when you're in a meeting, don't point towards people, right? So if you have to call out something, don't say, hey, you tell me about this, right? In a personal or professional situation, that's not a very good thing to do. Don't point with your finger towards people. If you're addressing to somebody in, say, a one-to-many situation, have an open hand and do this. Just point out to people like this with an open palm, right? And that's the way to kind of point out to people when you're doing that, right? Another question that had come earlier, oh God, that's such an interesting question. And that question was around, I'm going to push back and I'm going to stand and kind of do it just for more clarity, right? Because you may not be able to see me. So what do I, if my hands are like this, is this considered to be closed posture? What is this considered to be, right? Because more often than not, the books on this particular subject will say that, oh, if you're sitting like this, that means you're a closed person. But let's not go to the books. Let's do something which is practical here. If I'm in meetings very often, I feel very cold. And if I'm feeling very cold in a meeting, my default thing to do is often like, do this, right? Keep my hands like this, right? So it's not because I'm close, but I'm feeling cold. And most offices have an AC environment where people feel cold. So if you're doing it too much and if you're really kind of shrinking your body all the time, although you're not feeling cold, that's not a good thing to do. Okay, so let's look at this in two ways. What are you supposed to do? As far as possible, you don't do that, right? You, as far as possible, don't sit like this. You may as well sit straight, right? Expansive shoulders. If you're sitting on a table, keep your hands on the table. So sit like that with your straight back. Don't do this as far as possible. However, if you're interacting with somebody in a meeting and they're doing this, don't jump to conclusions about them, right? Don't think that, oh, this person is a close person, because often the person could just be feeling close. So you don't do it yourself, but don't jump to conclusions as far as other people are concerned, right? Cyril Jose, what a good question. I think I already discussed this. Do not force your hands during a presentation or any such communication. Keep your hands in front of your stomach or chest and let them start moving naturally, because you don't want to stage them. You will start focusing on your hands instead of the message, and the message is much more important than what you do with your hands. If you're making an important presentation to a customer, the customer doesn't care about what you did with your hands. He cares about your message more than what you did with your hands. However, if you keep your hands in your pocket, it won't make your body language look right, and that will be slightly disadvantageous to you in that particular situation when you're making the presentation, right? So just concentrate on the basics. Don't overthink those particular things. Okay. Kunal, what if my hands don't move during a discussion? Don't worry about it. Keep it on the table. If you're standing, keep it in front of your stomach or chest. Don't worry about it. Okay. Yeah, again, I think I've answered most of these questions. They're more or less saying the same thing, right? Again, what should I do if I'm in an interview? What should my hand gestures be? Same logic, right? So one of the things to remember is what we're concentrating on these things. When you're concentrating on these subjects, you can be rest assured that what we're teaching you applies in all situations of work, almost all situations of work, which means you don't need to do something differently when you go for an interview, or dealing with an important customer, or going for your appraisal, or dealing with your boss, so on and so forth, right? These are some of the basics that need to be done, more or less irrespective of any situation you're in. So don't worry about that. There's nothing specific that you need to do beyond this in different situations, okay? Okay, cool. I think I can't answer so many questions, right? Folding cuffs, is it good or bad during a meeting? Shantanu, what do I say? I started off with a suit. Right now, I folded my cuffs, right? Okay. I think it just depends on who's in the meeting, what your comfort level is with the people that you're in a meeting with. So if you're comfortable with the people, if they're people that you meet all the time, and if you fold your cuffs, it's no problem. However, if you're in a situation, say, where you're dealing with somebody really senior, important stakeholders, you may not want to do it, right? So it's not like it's going to make or break difference to your life. Don't worry about it, right? Yeah, because often India is a very kind of hot country. So it's a very hot country, so people often tend to fold their sleeves because it's hot if they're in an external environment. Good questions. So many questions. Ray Kumarappa. Okay, I hope I'm getting your name right. What is the right hand gesture in the Zoom meeting? Don't worry about your hands unless you're doing something obnoxious. Don't worry about your hands in a Zoom meeting, right? You can hardly see my hands. I need to stand up for you to see my hands in most cases, although I have them all over here. Okay, my 2-year-old son has just appeared. Bye. See you. Okay. Work from home. Okay. Yes. So, okay. No more questions on this. Now we're going to we have such limited time. Okay. But let's go to facial expressions now, right? Which is the next topic to take. What do you need to do? Okay. The first thing, okay, on facial expressions. When I was a kid, I read this quote that stuck with me, right? And there's a quote that says, a man without a smiling face must not open shop, right? Of course, it applies to all genders, but that's the way the quote is written. It's an old Chinese proverb. It says, a man without a smiling face must not open shop, right? So it's extremely important in a work environment for you to have, if you're not smiling, for you to have at least a pleasant facial expression. Okay. Now, this is a very important topic. So I want you to be all ears. We have limited time. So I want you guys to concentrate. So in a situation, say, where you're walking across the corridor, or you meet somebody in a lift at the workplace, or if you go into a meeting, your default facial expression must be a positive one. Okay. Now, when I say a positive one, I'm not talking about having a big, broad smile on your face every time you're interacting with people. That's not what I'm talking about, right? But if you come across a colleague, or come across a senior, or come across anybody in a work situation, it's good to have a default expression which is a positive one, and not one where you're frowning. Okay. So that is what you need to do. Now, in most meeting situation, whether you're on Zoom, whether it's a face-to-face meeting or in any other situation, irrespective of the topic that you're going to discuss in the meeting, it could be a very difficult topic to discuss. Always start with a smile, right? You'd want to smile and shake your hands with that particular person. It doesn't matter what the rest of the meeting could be about, right? Because you want to start that interaction on a positive note with that person. Okay. There's a very interesting something that we're going to cover in our class on customer service, internal and external. That's a very interesting class as well. I don't know when that's happening, but there is a well-researched stat on this subject, guys, that says when people are interacting with you, they make their impression of whether or not you want to help them in the first 7 to 10 seconds of interacting with you. I'm going to repeat this one because it's very interesting. It says people make their impression of you, of whether or not you want to help them, within the first 7 to 10 seconds of interacting with you, right? So if you're going to start those first 7 to 10 seconds of interaction with a frown on your face, people often are going to think that you don't want to help them, right? And then for some reason during that interaction, if you need to say no to them for something that they want, often the impression you give that internal or external customer is that when you started the interaction, because you had a frown on your face, you didn't want to help him from the start. So unko lagega isko pehle se hi nahi karna tha, right? So that's the thing that he's going to say in his mind. If you start that interaction with a negative impression, facial expression, if you start that interaction with a frown. However, if you start an interaction with the right facial expression, which is a positive facial expression, a smile, probably a greeting as well, the person on the other side feels that you want to be of help, that you want to have a conducive discussion with that particular person. Now, in the course of that discussion, maybe you can't say yes to what that person wants, right? He's still going to be okay with it because he's going to think that when this person entered this particular discussion, he entered with a positive state of mind. He possibly wanted to help, but something is genuinely holding him back in this particular discussion. So that's what he's going to think, right? Now, I hope all those who are clear, big yes in the chat box, please, because this is a very important point. I don't want to go on until you give me a big yes in the chat box. Come on, tell me that we're clear on this. Big yes is coming along. Big yes is coming along. Yep. Okay, I'm going to come to the questions at the end of this session. Okay, so I'm not looking at the questions right now because they're going to distract me. Guys, this is a class, right? So I'm going to repeat myself because I think the first 2 points that we made are important. There could be confusion. So please bear with my repetition, right? Number 1, a person without a smiling face must not open shop. Number 2, your default facial expression in most social settings should be a positive one and not a negative one. Number 3, start all your interactions, right? All your meetings, all your interactions with a smile on your face and with a good greeting, because people make an impression of whether or not they want to help you within the first 7 seconds of interacting with you, right? So very, very important points. I hope you keep this in mind, right? Isn't it strange? Let me kind of bring you in on this particular subject, right? Isn't it strange? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I think everybody on this particular chat forum is from India, is possibly an Indian. You know, if you enter an elevator or a lift in a hotel with somebody who's white skinned, very often, I mean somebody who's from the West, from Europe or US, a white skinned person, when you enter the lift with them, they will more often than not have a smile on their face as their default expression, and they often greet you, right? That's not something that we do very often, but you'd find that in colleagues that work with you from the Western world. Or say if you go to a hotel and if you bump into somebody who's white, they always do that. But if you meet somebody more often than not in the lift, even if it's in your own society, if you meet that person, or in your office building, you've seen that guy in the other department, you still have a frown on your face. You still won't smile at that person. It's something that we do for some reason. All of us Indians are guilty of doing this. right? At least most of us, not all of us, right? Before we start clamoring on the chat box, right? So that's something I think all of us can start doing. Okay. Now, of course, you don't want to be smiling too much at somebody that you don't know, right? A lot of women in this particular box will say, listen, if I go to office and if I give everybody a big smile, that'll be a problem in itself. And so will the men say, if I give a big smile to everybody, that could be a problem in itself. Of course, all of us need to exercise some common sense in what I'm saying. All of us need to know the situation, because you know people differently, so on and so forth. You need to be aware of the culture in your particular office. You need to be aware, so you need to use your common sense in this situation. You can't have a one thing that you slap in all these situations, right, when it comes to the positive facial expression. But by and large, the first 3 points that we shared will work in most of your interactions with people. Okay, now an important point: what should your facial expression be when you're listening to someone? That's a very, very important one, right? If we had more time, I would have made this, I would have asked you this question, but we have such little time. Let me throw some light on it, right? So your facial expression when you're listening to somebody needs to be reflective of the emotion that the other person has, right? For example, if you are speaking to a customer or important stakeholder that's upset about something and you have a smile on your face, right? You're going to get into trouble there. If that person is upset about something, you need to reflect his facial expression where you show concern. If the other person that's dealing with you is angry about something and you have a smile on your face, that's going to piss them off further. That's the wrong thing to do, guys. So somebody's angry with you about something, what you need to do is you need to have a facial expression which is that of concern. That's what you need to do, right? Does that make sense to you? Right? That's what you need to do. Okay, now, brilliant example. I'm sure all of us have watched at least one episode of KBC. Haven't we watched one episode? So Amitabh Bachchan is not just a good speaker, he's also a great listener. So if you remember watching even one episode of KBC, the thing that will come to your mind is that when Amitabh Bachchan is listening to the participants at KBC, if they're telling him a sad story, right? He'll have that expression on his face. He'll have that sad, concerned expression. If the participant is telling Amitabh Bachchan something with great excitement, right? He's going to have that excited expression on his face as well. So when he's listening to the other person, he's listening to them by reflecting their reflecting their emotion to them on his face, right? So I used to have, and the last example that I'll share here, we're running out of time. Last example that I'll share here is I had a friend that used to be airport manager at one of India's leading airlines, right, which has now gone bust, right? He used to be the airport manager. And, you know, flights get delayed all the time, right? So flights are getting delayed all the time, huge problems with the flight. So a lot of passengers would come to the terminal and they would be extremely kind of angry, upset that the flight has been delayed. And sure, that airport manager can't do anything about it because often flights are delayed because of technical difficulties, they're delayed because of tons of issues, right? So you can't really do anything about it. However, when they would be really angry, he would have an facial expression that was blank, right? He would just look at them with a blank facial expression, not really reflect the concern of that particular passenger. And then the passengers used to get even more upset with him, right? Because the feeling that they would get is that this particular airport manager, although my flight is delayed by 4 hours, I'm so concerned about it, he's not reflecting my emotion. He has a blank facial expression on his face. He doesn't care about that. They'd start complaining even more about it, right? So that's the thing that you need to keep in mind as far as your facial expression is concerned at the workplace, right? Now, question often comes, what does my facial expression need to do when I'm making presentations? Same logic again. Start the presentation with a positive facial expression where you smile at people, where you do that particular thing. And then once you're done with that, depending on what subject you're discussing, your facial expression needs to be around that, right? So tomorrow, if you're making a presentation on something which is a difficult subject, right? You don't need to be smiling after that initial portion. But start with a smile, start with a greeting for people. And then depending on the subject that you're talking about, your facial expression needs to reflect that, okay? Last point on facial expression. My team is getting very upset with me because I'm not sticking to timelines, okay? Now, You guys should read up on this a little more, okay? Because there's only that much that you can cover in a short session like this. But there is something which is called work face. And I used to do that so wrong at one point of time, right? Okay, I hope you can see me clearly. I'm removing my glasses. I'm getting closer to the screen so that you can see me. So, yeah. So when a long time back, I used to kind of sit at my workplace, and every time that I am concentrating on a certain thing, and say I'm writing an email or a report or I'm doing something, like when I'm not interacting with somebody, so this is the facial expression that I make, right? So when I'm really concentrating, I have something which is called my work face. That's what it's called. I have my work face on, where I cringe my eyes. It's not the best way my face looks, right? But this is what I do. And then once, say, one of my team members used to come and talk to me, and they'd say Swapnil, and I'd just look at them like this, right? Like I'd look at them with that same facial expression, and more often than not, my team would think that I'm angry with them or I'm upset about something. And they would often say that I'm not approachable, right? Because every time they came to my room and they wanted to talk to me, I looked at them like that because I was busy doing something else, right? And that is the kind of feedback that I started getting at the end of the year, saying, we're so scared. Every time we come to talk to you, you have this expression on your face which doesn't make you approachable, right? So then I had to get conscious about it. So even today, if I'm concentrating on something, this is the facial expression that I make, right? I make this facial expression, but as soon as somebody comes to interact with me, I change that facial expression and I look with them and I start that interaction with a smile, right? So just being conscious about it has helped me so much. And now my team thinks I'm a lot more approachable than what I was earlier, right? So it's helped me so much in my ability to kind of lead them, right? So yeah, that's my bit to you on facial expression. We have so many questions, guys. So many questions. Good, good. Keep it up. Okay, I'm gonna wear my glasses. I can't see without them. Um, Yeah, Namrita, again, it's a great question. Not all facial expressions stick around for a long time. You're right about it, right? So even if you're sitting in a meeting, you want to avoid, especially if you have important stakeholders around you, right? You want to avoid looking not interested. You want to avoid looking bored in a meeting, especially if you have important stakeholders around you, right? You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be looking into your cell phone. You don't want to be doing these things, right? I think some people have actually mastered, and you should be one of them, right? They've mastered the art of, even if the meeting is extremely boring, they have a facial expression on their face that makes them seem like they're very interested in it, right? Can you keep that on for the whole day? Possibly not, right? You can't do that for the whole day. But if you especially have short meetings, ensure that you don't have a facial expression where you're looking bored, you're looking uninterested, because that could have some wrong consequences on the people speaking or who are a part of the meeting, right? So the thing that I want to actually, for each one of you all to take away from this particular subject and topic, is to say, when it comes to the topic of body language, please be conscious about your body language, which means please be conscious about your posture. It's a very simple thing that you need to do. Be careful about it. When it comes to your eyes, very simple things to do, right? Be conscious about it. Third thing, when it comes to your hands, be conscious about it, right? So each and every one of the areas that we've covered and your facial expression, just be aware about it. And even during the next 1 week, if you raise your awareness on these things, you will try to rectify them. It's not going to happen immediately, but it'll take a good 7 or 10 days for you to actually rectify these things, right? And again, Namrata, to your question, I think what we need to do is our facial expression needs to reflect the emotion of the person on the other side, right? And bosses, often, if you're a leader here, the thing that pisses you off the most when you're dealing with your team members is when you are concerned about something and the facial expression there seems like they're not concerned at all about it. If you're a parent, again, of a teenager, I'm sure you will know this particular feeling where the parent is so concerned, but the expression on the teenager's face is that where it doesn't seem like they give a damn, even if they don't say anything about it. And that pisses the parent off, right? To see that particular facial expression. So that's how it's going to basically work at the workplace, right? So with that, we are done. I think, are we done? Yeah, we're done with the subject of facial expression. Uh, Okay, these are the takeaways. Quickly read through them because we can't spend much time on that. This is just a summary of this topic. Guys, we're going to go beyond 7:30. I'm really sorry. This is the first session. We're going to go beyond 7:30. I don't want to abruptly end this session. You guys have taken the time and come to it. We're going to try to wrap up as soon as possible, but please bear with me. I'm a passionate teacher. So, and I haven't trained people in such a long time, because of the lockdown. I've been busy with other CEO related stuff running the company. So not had training. So I'm pretty excited as well. So please forgive me. Okay. Thank you, Ashwin. At least it's good to see one person is really enjoying the session. You made my day. I'm going to tell my wife that somebody at least enjoyed my session a lot. Lalit, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I think every teacher needs a little bit of encouragement, right? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So this is the key takeaways there, right? Now, very quickly, let's go on to the next subject, right? So we spoke about how to speak impactfully. Okay. And you need to focus because I don't want to take much of your time, but I need your total attention. I need your total focus during this period. Here in this particular section, we are not talking about the content of what you speak. We are not talking about how you structure your communication. How do you structure thought? We are not talking about that. The only thing that we're talking about in this section is irrespective of what you're saying, how do you say that with impact, right? Whether it's a telephone call, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a presentation, how do you say that with impact? I hope I'm clear on that. We're not talking about the actual contents. We're not talking about the structure. We're not talking about whether you're making sense or not. We're not talking about that. We're saying irrespective of what you say, how do you say that with impact, right? So that's what we're here to talk about. Thank you that you all are enjoying it. Okay. Now, what you say is important, but how you say it makes all the difference, right? I think all of you all will agree with that. Okay. Now, quickly. Okay. Now, are you listening? Everybody listening? Everybody listening? Everybody listening? Everybody listening? Yeah. Come on, let's go. So, listen carefully. There are 5 things that helps a person speak impactfully. 5 things. Of these 5 things, the first 2 that are going to come here are the most important things that matter, right? Of the 5 things. So first I'm going to put the 5 things down. You don't need to take a picture if you want to make notes because you're going to get a lovely 1 page of summarizing this entire session, right? It's all there. Don't worry about it. Okay. So what are those 5 things? The 5 things are: number 1, tone of voice. Number 2, stressing on words. Number 3, clarity of speech. Number 4, your volume, pace, and pause. And number 5 is your fluency, right? So these are the 5 most important things to keep in mind. But of these 5, the first 2 are the most important. So I'm going to spend most of my time over the next 10 minutes on the first 2, and then I'll quickly explain the last 3 to you all, right? But my focus is going to be on the first 2. So let's discuss the subject of tone of voice. Okay. Now, although we're running out of time, I want to pose this question to you, right? And the question that I have for you, and I want answers 30 seconds quickly, guys. I want the answers on the chat box. My question to you is, what is tone of voice? If you had to define what tone of voice means without referring to good old Google, don't refer to good old Google, guys. Don't. If you had to write your answers in the chat box very, very quickly, okay, of what is tone of voice? Thank you very much. Come on. Good. I'm seeing some good answers. Go for it, guys. Go for it. Okay, good. Thank you very much, my sincere students that have come at 6 o'clock on a Saturday during a lockdown. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for some of your answers. Now, since I've conducted so many of these sessions, typically when I ask people, what does tone of voice mean? They give answers which are very similar to this, right? So they give answers where they say that, oh, tone of voice is pitch. That's what they'll say. And then I ask them, what's pitch mean? And they're like, I don't know what pitch means. Or some of them will say, oh, tone of voice is vibration in your voice. And then I ask them, what do you mean by vibration? You don't know what vibration means. Okay, or they say tone of voice is volume. They know tone of voice is not volume. So those are typical answers that people give. The other typical answers that people give is that they'll say tone of voice is it should be soft. That's what they'll say, right? It should be soft. And that doesn't give me, it's like if I ask you a question saying, what does a country mean? Right? If I ask you, what does a country mean? And then you start giving answers saying India, Japan, China. Those are names of countries, but that's not what a country means. So exactly like that, most of your answers, not all, are about telling me, it should be soft, it should be this, it should be that. Because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to verbal communication, the most important of those five things is tone of voice. And yet people don't have clarity on what tone of voice means. Now, what does tone of voice mean? Tone of voice, very simply, listen to this thing carefully. Tone of voice means emotions or feelings expressed through words, right? That's the way you can define tone of voice. Emotions or feelings expressed through words, right? And now all the things that you said will start making sense, right? So typically when we're speaking to people, we'll say, he spoke to me in a sad tone of voice, right? That's an emotion. He spoke to me in a happy tone of voice. He spoke to me in an excited tone of voice. He spoke to me in a sarcastic tone of voice. He spoke to me in an angry tone of voice. He spoke to me in an impolite tone of voice. He spoke to me in a polite tone of voice. He spoke to me in a confident. All these are emotions or feelings that you express through words, right? So, but first, it's important to understand the concept of what tone of voice means. It's your emotions or feelings expressed through words. Now, beautiful quote. I love proverbs and quotes, right? Those of you all who have been students of mine know that I love them. There's a beautiful quote that says 90% of misunderstandings between human beings happen not because of what is said, but because of the tone of voice in which it is said or how it's said. Again, 90% of misunderstandings between people happen not because of what is said, but because of the tone of voice in which it is said, right? If any of y'all are married, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because I think 90% of spousal discord happens not because of the contents of anything, but because of the tone of voice in which the person speaks, right? So just to give you a typical example, if my wife calls out to me from the other room and she says, Swapnil, and then I say, yeah. Okay, that's now what tone have I used when I've replied to her, right? An irritated tone of voice, which she's very well aware of, right? So then she comes charging towards me. She's not there at home right now, so I'm saying all these things. So then she comes charging towards me, and then she's like, why are you speaking to me like that? And then I say, what did I say? I said, yeah. And it's not really about the yeah, but it's actually how I said that yeah. And she, being my spouse, knows that exact emotion that is there in it, right? That I'm speaking to her in an irritated tone of voice. And I'm sure all the people that are married here, all the people that are married or have been in long-term relationship with people will agree with me, right? And that's where most of our fights start, most of our misunderstandings start, right? So if you don't get your tone of voice right, you will be prone to be in situations of miscommunication, right? I'm not checking the chat box currently, guys. Oh, am I? Yeah, okay. Yeah, some good responses. Okay, good example of married couples. Yeah, that's true. That's what happens. That's what we do. Okay, so what do you need to do now? Okay, number one, exactly like we spoke about, most people don't understand that tone of voice is emotional feeling, so they're always confused about why this happens. Okay, haven't you been in a situation where somebody said this to you? I'll say this in Hindi and English both, right? Somebody said I don't care what he spoke, but he spoke to me rudely. And then you say, but what did I say? I said, no, I can't give you this. They'll say, no, it's not about saying no, it's how you said it, right? And what they're trying to say is you use the wrong tone of voice. The emotion was rude, right? And that's why the stakeholder on the other side gets pissed off with that, right? So that's exactly what you need to avoid, right? So from today onwards, in your personal and your professional interactions, be very, very careful about the tone of voice you use. Okay, because you'll be able to avoid a lot of misunderstandings based on that. Now, okay, um, okay, yeah, we've covered this. We've covered this. Okay, now in a business setting, this is very interesting. Okay, although there are hundreds of different emotions that we have in a business setting, what should your tone of voice be? Now, we are talking about important meetings. We are talking about presentation situations, right? Important meetings, important calls that you're communicating on with stakeholders, right? So there are 5 things. I'll first say them, then I'll put them up on the slide, right? Number one, if you want to speak impactfully, your tone needs to be energetic, enthusiastic, passionate, right? So if you don't have an energetic, enthusiastic, passionate voice, it's not going to sound good, right? What's the opposite of this? Having a dull tone of voice, having a monotonous tone of voice. So when somebody says you sound monotonous, what they're trying to say is there's no emotion or feeling or energy in your tone of voice. Okay, I don't want to name this thing, but do you remember a former prime minister, that very intelligent man, but used to speak in a monotonous way, right? And that would not sound too good to our ears, right? Even when he would make important, exciting announcements, we wouldn't know whether it was good news or bad news because he would talk in a monotonous way, right? So when you're speaking, if you don't want to sound monotonous, you need to speak in an energetic, enthusiastic, passionate way. Number two, you need to talk with confidence and self-belief, right? Because if you are not going to sound confidence through your tone of voice, don't expect other people to show confidence in you, right? The feeling that people get is you yourself don't believe in yourself. Why should I believe in you, right? So you need to speak in a confident tone of voice. Okay, now you need to have the ability to make something sound big or small, important and aspirational. Okay, now I'm going to get to this particular part. It's very interesting. Okay, you need to, and this is the point number, the top 3 points here are extremely important. Okay, at the workplace, you need to have a genuine, authentic, a real kind of tone of voice, right? So you can't sound fake when you're speaking. And the last one is you need to know how to speak in a polite, friendly, and amicable way, right? You need to be able to, especially when you're speaking to customers, it's just very, very important that you speak in that kind of polite, friendly way. Now, just 2 things that I want to share here, right? Often our bosses tell us, and very senior people tell us, that you need to speak in an assertive way, right? And we just nod our heads, but we don't really know what they're talking about, right? And the word assertive, often what they mean is you need to speak in a way that's confident yet polite, right? So they're kind of marrying these 2 words. So when you're speaking to this important customer, be confident, be firm about what you're saying, but don't sound rude. Don't go overboard and sound rude, because sometimes we could sound rude, right? When we sound confident. So sound confident yet be polite, and that the word given to that is this beautiful word called assertive communication, right? Speaking in an assertive fashion. And all our bosses love to say this to us without really explaining what it means, right? So that's what it means. It's a combination, but it's largely dependent on your tone, on how you do that, right? And if you can't do that, you get into a lot of trouble, because you can't say no to people, you can't put your foot down where required, so on and so forth. If you can't master your assertive voice, we either sound too polite, which is meek, or we're too confident, where we're sounding almost arrogant, right? And we need to bring it to that combination of the 2. Okay, so these are the kind of 5 tones that you need to master for most important meetings or presentations when you're communicating with people. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about stressing on words, and then I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how good speakers do this during meetings, right? Now, the topic of stressing on words, which was the second point there, is very, very simple. What words do you stress on in a line during your meetings or presentations, or when you're conversing? You stress on the words that are the most important words in that particular sentence. You want to stress on the words which you want the other person to take notice of, right? That's the simple logic that you use. Stress on the words that are the most important words there. Stress of the words that you want the other people to take notice of, who are listening to you, right? So that's the logic. Now, let me combine these two things for you and tell you how good speakers often do this, right? So you'd have a speaker that would do something like this, where he'd say, this quarter we have grown our business by 15%. Okay. Now, what did the person really focus on? The word that he stressed on the most was 15%. And the tone that he used, the emotion that he used in that particular thing is he made it sound really big, right? So he said, this quarter we've grown our business by 15%. Okay. So stressed on the word, made it sound big. Okay. Now, on the other side, he could have said the same thing. You said, this quarter we have grown our business by 5%. Okay. Now he's made 5 sound big. So if you don't know too much about the subject, if he says 5, by stressing on it and making it sound big, you will think 5 is big. If he says 15, by stressing on it and making it sound big, you'll think 15 is big. If he says 30 like that, you'll think of the same way, right? Now, interesting thing. All good business leaders do this who are good communicators, right? Because if they want you to think something is big, they stress on that word, they make it sound. All politicians do this with you all the time, right? Of course, I don't want to name politicians, but somebody will come and say, XYZ Sarkar ne 50 lakh toilet bande, right? So they say 50, they move their hands like this, they say 50 lakh, they stress on that so much. They really make it sound big. And then all of us tend to believe that that particular subject, that those amount of toilets is a big deal, right? Because we don't really know whether those toilets are there or not, whether they've been built or not. We have no such idea, right? He could say 50 lakh toilet bande, we think 50 lakhs is big. If he says 10 lakh toilet bande, we think 10 lakhs is big, right? Because we don't know how many were built last year. We don't know how many were built by the previous government. We've got no idea. But if that leader says it in a certain fashion, we think it's a big figure. If he says it in a flat tone, we think it's a small figure, right? It all depends on how you're saying that particular thing. So that's the way you combine stress on a word with the tone of voice, right? This is the way you tend to combine it. Okay. I hope that's clear. Now, what are the other things? I told you I'll quickly take you through the last 3, right? Clarity of speech. In Hindi, clarity of speech, which we've been told ever since we were kids, what it means is spashta uchcharan, right? Kisi bhi baat ko spashta tarike se uchchar karna. Okay. There are some people that speak in their mouth. There are some people that speak they really open their mouth and they take the effort while speaking. You should be one of those people. Again, my attention, I'm a big fan of Amitabh Bachchan, right? So when he's on KBC, he says every word, right? He says every word with so much clarity, right? He really opens his mouth and says it. He doesn't eat any words in his mouth, right? He doesn't mumble any words. Can you imagine Amitabh Bachchan on a conference call, right? How good he would sound with every word being said very, very clearly. Okay. So that's what clarity of speech really means, right? Now, the other thing is volume, pace, and pause, right? Basically volume, if you talk too softly, that's a wrong thing. So of course, if you shout out, that's a wrong thing. I've not seen many people speak too loudly, but I've seen way too many people speak too softly, whether it comes on Zoom calls, whether it comes to, one-on-one discussions, so on and so forth, right? So we err on the side of speaking too softly more often than not than too loudly, right? But I cannot give you that what should your exact volume be, right? Because it's not like it's there on some knob on a music player for me to tell you that. But just be aware that you're not speaking too softly, right? If you do public speaking with a mic, ensure a lot of people, instead of holding the mic here, hold the mic right, next to their belly button, right? So people towards the end can't hear them at all. If you use a mic ever, or if you collar up, put your mic up here, keep the mic up here so that the volume is clear even to the last person. At the start of any meeting, if you're doing a presentation, it's always good to check with the furthest person in the room whether they can hear you clearly, right? So that's a good check on whether your volume is good or not. The other thing is pace or pause. See, pace or pause is very difficult to train people on, right? Because it's very important to take pauses when you're speaking. And the way to do it is at the end of every sentence, where you typically put a full stop. When you write, you put a full stop. That's the place where you take a pause, right? But it's very difficult to actually train people on this particular thing. So you can get a lot of theoretical stuff, but it doesn't really work. And the last thing is your fluency. So fluency typically comes when you have a good command over the language, right? So if you have that good command over the language, you will have fluency on it. If you don't have the command over the language, you're not going to have the fluency on right? So that's what these points are about. I typically focus on the first two because I don't know whether you heard of the 2080. 2080, you should read up on it, right? So if you get the first two right, that will give you 80% of your results, right, as compared to the last three. So it's really important to focus on the first two when you're doing it. Now, what's a great tip? Because everybody, I'm sure everybody is thinking, oh, you know what, I love this, I want to start speaking more impactfully, how do I practice? Very simple thing to do, and all of y'all can start doing this from today. Okay, read aloud, read any newspaper, book, anything, read aloud for 10 to 15 minutes a day, right? Just follow this simple practice of reading something aloud. You can't read in your mind if you want to improve the way you speak. So read aloud for 10 to 15 minutes, but when you're reading aloud, read like a news reader would read on TV, right? Because they do all these things that I just spoke about if you actually think about it. They do each and every one of these things. So read like a newsreader would read, where you stress on the right words for the right things, you use the right tone of voice, you concentrate on the clarity of speech, right? Of really opening your mouth and speaking. You really focus on that particular thing. You speak at the right volume, right? Try to speak at the right pace, pause. And of course, the fluency because you're reading it out. And the thing to do is over a period of 7 to 15 days, right? Do this exercise for 15 days 7 to 15 days, and every day record yourself, ideally video record yourself, but if you're too conscious, don't like being video recorded, at least audio record yourself and see how you sound, right? And when you do that, you'll have a pretty good indicator. Am I speaking with clarity? Am I using the right tone at the right places? Am I really stressing on the right words? Because you can't really practice this thing otherwise unless you do this particular reading exercise for 10 to 15 minutes for 7 to 15 days is what I would recommend. And a really important way of doing it is record yourself, ideally in video, right? Record yourself and then watch yourself every day, and you will know whether you're getting better or not. Because the minute we watch ourselves, since we watch so many other speakers, when you watch yourself, it becomes easy for you to compare yourself against somebody who's a good speaker and then see those areas of improvement, right? So do that particular thing. And just trust me when I say that when you do this, you will need no other coach, right? Because you will start becoming your best self coach. And if you still have any questions, that's what the Work Better Club is for. So you're going to come for the group coaching classes, right? We have group coaching where you can ask any question that you want for 1.5 hours, and we're going to address those particular questions. So you can come there, but I can assure you, even if you don't, this exercise will really help you improve in this area of your life. Okay. Yeah. So key takeaways, I want you all to read them. I'm not going to read them. Key takeaways. How many do we have? 5. Okay. Key takeaways are these. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the chat. Okay. Good. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you guys. You are very, very kind and very, very nice. You are being very, very sweet. Thank you very much in the chat. Okay, we have guys. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay, 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 okay. Let me. We're running out of time. Okay. Just a minute. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that we come off the first session of Work Better Club, and I am so grateful to all of y'all to have logged on and been on this first session. We hope the Work Better Club proposition is going to be a humongous proposition, because all of y'all will agree that soft skills are as important as hard skills, right? And this is a club that is going to help you do exactly that, right? Now, okay, now what I want you to do is, although you're going to get a cheat sheet, I want each one of you all to make a note of what your top 3 takeaways are from this particular session. Make a notepad, make a note somewhere. But besides doing that, everyone, that these are my 3 top Hi, am I back on? Hello? Yeah. Okay, guys, I don't know whether you can hear me. Can you hear me, Mitali? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So I want all of y'all to put down your top three takeaways from this particular session in the chat box. Whatever the three things that you're going to take and actually start doing in your life, please put them down. Right. Until you think of them, let me tell you another thing. Right. So I am in this kind of training session. I am playing the equivalent of a gym instructor. Right. I am telling you what are the exercises that you need to do to make yourself fit. Right. That is what I can do. But you are not going to become fit if you don't actually start doing those exercises. So a lot of people go to the gym instructor tells them what exercises to do. They never do those exercises, and then they often say, yeah, gym to chalta hi nahi hai, the gym doesn't work. No, the gym works, yeah, but the gym works for people that actually go and work out consistently, right? So this training program is going to work for you if you start implementing the stuff that you learned from this particular training session. If you don't implement the stuff that you learned from this training session, it's not going to work for you, right? So please put down the three things that you have, put them down in this particular chat box, and ensure that you start implementing them in your day-to-day life, and implement them in such a way that people see the difference, right? Literally the stakeholders that deal with you, whether personal or professional, must say to you, they must say, isko kya hua yaar, how did this guy change so much as far as his body language is concerned, or how did he change so much as far as what you call it, his ability to speak is concerned, right? So people must actually see the difference. If you lose 1 kg of weight, you know about it. If you lose 15 kgs of weight, the whole world knows about it, right? So lose those 10 to 15 kgs by actually bringing about these changes so that people can see it and start putting it into action, because that's the most important thing that you need to do. Okay, so I'm glad that you put some of these takeaways. My team is literally shouting at me now, right? So I hope you put these takeaways. Please start implementing them. Now, we have, I'm putting it in the chat box, guys. We have a test that is there, which is a quick assessment. And this assessment is a very simple assessment. It's more an assessment to help you remember stuff, right? And if you answer any 7 out of 10 right, you are going to get a beautiful certificate from Work Better Training, that you've taken this particular thing and you answered the test. The beautiful certificate. I am putting the link in the chat box right now. There it is. No, wait, I have just put it for just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Okay, this is the link which is come. And if you go and answer this quick test, you're going to get a beautiful certificate with your name that is going to come to you, right? Which you can download. So please do that. Okay, and also I am going to launch a poll, which is your feedback for this particular session. So I'm going to launch the poll. Please quickly answer this particular poll. It's just 3 questions that you need to answer there, then do the assessment. And with that, we come to an end of the first session of the Work Better Club. Okay, Arunima, can you see the poll? Okay, so please answer it quickly. Yeah, and there the assessment is. The assessment is there. Please look at the assessment, do the assessment, guys. Okay, thank you very much. I've had a great time. Thank you for interacting so much. It was really fun for me to do this particular session with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you're having any problems with the link, Mitali, can you please look into we have a few people that are talking about having problems with the link. Mitali, please. Okay, Mitali says, add your registered email IDs and username. Oh, I'm so happy to see all these takeaways. Wonderful. But please put them into action, guys. That's all that I want, that you put them into action. Thank you. Thank you. Better to learn. If you learn 10 things and don't implement anything, it doesn't make sense. If you learn one thing and implement it, that's far more useful than learning 10 things and not implementing anything, right? So ensure from this point on, the focus is on implementation. Also, guys, tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, is the amazing session on how to deal with your boss well. Right? I don't think there's any subject which is more important than how to deal with your boss well. I'm going to be taking that subject. Next week, we have some other trainers taking those sessions, which are equally wonderful. We've got the best trainers of soft skills and behavior in this country taking every subject on that calendar for you, right? So you can be rest assured about the quality. But tomorrow's session, can't have a better topic than that, guys. Manage your boss. Have you ever had a session on that? Never. That's the session that you need to come for. I hope to see you post breakfast. Vaibhav, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Mitali's also put up the amazing video on by Amy Cuddy, the body language one, right? She's put that, watch that, guys. It's a 20-minute video. If you don't have time today, if it's too much of time away from family, watch that tomorrow. But look at that link or type Amy Cuddy on YouTube and you can watch the video. The focus of that video is around how body language impacts yourself, right? Of how it has an impact on yourself. So watch that particular video. Come. Mitali, please let me know when I can exit the session. Come. Get him here, get him here. Get him here. Get him here, get him here. Come. My son is finally here. We had kept him away from the house because we were supposed to do this webinar. But I'm going to show you a picture of him anyway. Here, hi, say hi. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay, say bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Okay, say I hope you all had a good time learning. Okay, he's least interested, guys. Bye, see you. Say bye. Bye, see you. Bye, see you. Frida was there. Frida was there? Okay, cool. Oh, you're on two screens. Okay. Bye, guys. See you. Thank you very much. Mitali, can I exit the meeting? What has she said? I've sent it, no?